Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone's a special guest because they take their time to join me on my show. But I'm joined by esteemed Mason coach, Coach Kim English. Now, if you know, I am a part of the Mason Nation, and so this is a really special episode for me. Because, definitely rah-rah, go Patriots. But I wanted to connect with Coach to learn a little bit about his journey into coaching, as well as how he takes leadership seriously and all that. But before we get into this episode, Coach, can you give listeners a little background on who you are?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Like you said, my name's Kim English, head basketball coach at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland originally. I played basketball my whole life. Went on to play collegiately at the University of Missouri. After 4 seasons there, went on to play professionally in the NBA and abroad. Really enjoyed my time learning and playing professionally, but always knew that I wanted to get into coaching. And if I wasn't going to have a career in the NBA, I felt like it was much more beneficial to start my career as a coach earlier than later. So I jumped right in it at the University of Tulsa for 2 seasons, on to the University of Colorado for 2 seasons, on to the University of Tennessee for 2 seasons, and am incredibly fortunate and thankful and excited to be the head coach here at Mason as we try to rebuild this program back to what it was in the early and late 2010s-ish.
Yeah. So I love that you actually spoke about that, about you already earlier started to transition the mindset to being a coach from a player. When was that was that during your collegiate days where you were like, okay, I'm gonna make it to the league and maybe, do a couple years. I really want to be a coach. When did that mindset shift occur?
Yeah, I always knew I was going to be an NBA player. But I always also knew I was going to be a coach. So I always thought about both. To the point when I was inactive in the NBA, meaning I didn't dress for that game. I had a notepad on the bench. I sat, behind the coaches and was always listening and thinking and, subconsciously and intentionally building what my one-day program would look like. Now that looks differently, right? If it's professional versus college, you have a lot more boxes to check off when you're talking about being a head coach of a college program. Your hands on a lot more things than just the basketball. But I've always known, I've always been intentional about thinking and learning and listening. And I think it helps me now. I remember what it feels like to be a player, listening to what coaches said and what worked and didn't work. And our program is a mixture of all those things from my past coaches.
I love it. So, thinking about your hybrid style or your coaching philosophy, like when you were having that notepad, who was some coaches in the game that you started to study? Because, like if you want to be a good coach, you study good coaches. So who are some of the people you were drawing inspiration from as you were developing yourself as a coach?
Well, my coaches are the easy answer. I had a really intimate experience up close watching them lead. Mike Anderson, Frank Haith. I worked for Frank Haith. Tad Boyle, Rick Barnes played, Tom Thibodeau, Lawrence Frank. Some international coaches, Luka Pavicevic, Nestor Che Garcia. Those guys had a big impact on me because I was privy to the day-to-day operations of what it looked like and decisions and structure and culture and systems and ideals and teaching methods. But as I watched the game, I've always been drawn to Shaka Smart, from a leadership standpoint. I think he's one of the best leaders in our game. Bill Self, Jay Wright, from a systemic systematically, the way they play, their approach to the game. Kelvin Sampson, his team's rebounding, toughness, and physicality. Those are guys that we're drawn to.
I love it. So when you were, I think basketball IQ is very needed to be a coach, right? Like some people have a lot of raw talent, but then you hear about IQ of a sport. What does that mean to you? When you think about, you hear people say, "Oh, that person has a high, IQ for football, basketball, and those things." And how would you tell young people to train that? Because you're coaching young people.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I mean, it's an intelligence barometer. But the thing about IQ, which I think is misconstrued, it's not a final metric.
Yeah.
Right. It's something that can continue to grow, and it's really important because I learn every day. And when I talk to our guys, I actually had this talk with our guys last summer, and it was, how do you become a smarter player, a more intelligent player? It's you watch the game, right? And you just ask yourself a ton of questions. Every single play, ask why they did that, right? What was the other coach trying to accomplish? What was the player trying to accomplish, right? How did they do it, right? Where on the court should they be? What was he looking at? When does he break open? What's the situation, time and score? And you just get to practice these situations time and time again. And then basketball, for the most part, it's a lot of reoccurring
Patterns.
It's patterns.
Yeah.
It's all patterns. So you see it, you know it, you know what to do. You've seen it, this situation, every single time I've been a part of a team that's down 10 with 1 minute to go. I think of Duke coming back at Maryland and beating the Terps. Like it goes in my mind every single time. Like, I think of all these things. I think of Christian Laettner's, last second shot against Kentucky, like that inbound play. Like all those plays throughout the game kind of run through your mind. But from a player standpoint, it's more difficult.
I was about to say,
because it's decisions in the split, and it's the circuit in the brain and sending that message to your body and your hands and your eyes and your feet to make those quick-witted, smart plays. But without a doubt, quickness of mind is more important than quickness of feet.
Because I was thinking about that too. Like we always talk about mindfulness and being in the present. So you try to study, you try to know, but then when it's the game time, you can't be like, oh, let me just recall. You have to be like present. So it's like
there's opportunities for you to do that. You can on a free throw. You can during a timeout. You can take a second to really think, put yourself in a place. I think that basketball training should be very, boring, if you will.
Okay.
Like a process of the same drills every day. Remember, because the game is, really simple. It's you're guarding the ball, you're playing off of a closeout. The shot go up, you go get the rebound. Someone shoots a shot, you contest it, right? But when you get in the game, I don't know what my opponent is doing. So you have to be able to go back to all those times of you just repping out the simple reads. If it's close me out left, drive right. Close me out right, drive left. Close out short, shoot it. Runs me off the line. If he's beaten, he's recovering, shot fake. And the game does slow down. Like the game is slower than I think the average fan thinks it is.
Oh, it's fast to me.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I see y'all going boom, 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 boom.
I know.
Get the ball
fast.
and run down and
But
sprint.
I'm telling you, when you train, when you study, when you train a lot, the game is slow. The game is really slow because what you realize is you're in control. They say, obviously there's cliches, but be quick, not in a hurry. Tell our guys you need to be early on defense, but you can be late on offense.
Okay.
You can be slow on offense. It won't be. It's not the end of the world. For you to play off of 2 feet instead of going up there jumping off 1. At the end of your drive, give a shot fake, pivot. You have 5 seconds after a pivot to make a pass. Right, 5 seconds is a long time closely guarded.
Yeah, if you think about it, yeah. If you count 1/1000 to 5, it's plenty of time. So one of my thoughts was, you could have coached at different levels, and I think you did speak to it about the coaching college is not just basketball. It's other things because you're coaching young men at a pivotal time in they're growing up and stuff. So was that particularly in your thought process of, being a college coach as opposed to a, NBA or professional coach?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to possibly join the Sixers when I decided to go to Tulsa, and I just think Sam Hinkie is brilliant, and I thought Brett Brown was great, and their entire staff has went on to do great things in the league. Everyone that was on that Philly team in 2000, at Philly front office or coaching staff in 2014, 15, whenever it was. I ultimately felt that I wanted to be in college. The impacting of the young players was really important to me. But I felt better in that moment about, teaching the college game because I had success as an individual and being around successful college programs as a player. College teams as a player. And I didn't have success, individually as a player in the NBA or as a team. Now that doesn't mean you can't be a successful coach in the NBA if you haven't had success as a player. But I felt my calling was the college game in that moment.
Now with that added responsibility, and I think about you're a black male, predominantly your team are black males. Do you have this extra layer or responsibility in your mind to say I have to be a role model, or do I have to really invest and mentor? I'll be transparent because when I work at George Mason, I see that no matter what, I hate that Charles Barkley thing, I'm not no role model, but then at the sense just being, you're just your normal being, you're someone's role model. You can't help it. And I take that mentally, subconsciously, and overtly. Yeah. But what about you as a coach?
First, I want to be there for them. First and foremost, I want to be there for them. And I want to help them. And I want them to know that I love them and care for them and will do anything for them. That's the most important thing to me. I want to make sure that they're heard. That I understand their feelings when they see things that have been going on in our country the last few years. And I want to help them athletically reach their wildest dreams. Now, the fact that I am a black male and I understand most of us come from the same socioeconomic background, very similar neighborhoods, albeit different cities. It's all that stuff is important to me first and foremost, and because I do things the right way, come to work, take care of my children, treat them with respect, treat everyone with respect, love everyone. If they take that and see that and want to be like that, then that's a plus. But my aim first and foremost is making sure they're okay and more than okay, making sure that they're having as good of a George Mason experience as anyone.
Yeah, so think about, obviously, this is not like a thought that you really, want to tell a kid, but in your mind, you're like, okay, I got all these players, they're all talented, but the funnel to the league is but so small. I want to prepare them for other things in life. Does that ever come to your mind too? Because you've been in it, you've seen all the funnel get smaller for your experience to get to the league. It's I don't know. I can't do statistics, but I know it's like 1% or something like that.
Yeah, less
right?
than 1%.
1%.
It's small. It is small. I think those things aren't mutually exclusive. We're preparing them for careers in the NBA as we're preparing them for careers in Europe, as we're preparing them for careers as coaches, as we're preparing them for careers in corporate America or education or politics, whatever it may be. I think these lessons hold true, at all places. They're getting introduced to our amazing faculty and supporters and administrators, and I really care that they build those relationships now as athletes, so that that it's something that they can tap into after their playing days are over.
Do you ever see someone like you with that notepad on the sideline, and you see the spark that they might want to be a coach one day rather than a player? And not just
I don't know
not
about
just here
rather than a player, but
well,
I've came across kids that may have that itch to coach. I think VJ Bailey is that on our current team. I think I've had some players at Tennessee that I think are going to be great coaches one day.
Well, and how was that? I mean, when you say you could see it, were they doing it? Were they just asking you a lot of questions after a play and trying to break it down themselves? Or
no, it's seeking you outside of practice or any other time and asking why, or walk me through this, or why'd you say that, or I understood that, or it's the ones that it was me. Man, in college, I'd be texting with Frank Haith, as we're watching NBA games at night. And the next day in practice, he'd put in the play we're talking about, and so if you're gonna be in it, if you're gonna be a coach, you have to be obsessed with it.
Okay.
I like to say I'm obsessed with, my girls, my religion, and this game.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
And honestly, it'd be my religion, my girls, in this game.
Okay.
Obsessive, and it's the truth. And if you're going to be exceptional in any field, I think there has to be a level of obsession. And I think it's very admirable. And this may be the wrong thing to say. I don't know.
It's like the Kobe Bryant mama mentality.
People talk about balance and well-roundedness. And it's just like, I get it. It sounds good, but you have to be obsessed with it if you're going to beat out a very small percentage of people who want to be at that pinnacle.
That makes sense. I was thinking and I was going to be leading into my question, do you watch a lot of basketball at home? You just coached it. You talked about it all day, and then you're going to go home.
Yeah.
Do you turn on ESPN and start watching it some more?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You can't get enough of it. And I'm not ashamed of that at all.
Okay.
Right? It's far too competitive of a field where we're trying to go, when we're trying to be at the mountaintop, is far too competitive. And I'm fine. I'm healthy. Right? I'm healthy. I'm happy. I love it. It's the best.
Yeah.
I golf a little bit when the guys go home in May and August. But it's a healthy obsession. It's what I look for in young talent. We have a grad assistant now named Matt Palumbo. Mm-hmm. He is a coaching star. He's going to be a star, and he obsesses over it. He obsesses over the game, I've never worked a day in my life.
Got you. Yeah, you're chasing passion.
Yes. Yeah. You kidding me? I get to come here and build a roster and build a schedule and get on the court with our guys individually, and then have team practice and go find new talent. It's like I do it for free.
Yeah, don't say that. Now, okay, that's the part I like. You talked about passion, chasing dreams, and they always say that flow state. This is something you would do, without money. But is there a point, because there's you have to win, you have to be successful to really be considered a success? Do you feel like that pressure sometimes takes away from enjoying the moment? And what I mean by that, I want to be there, I want to be present, but then I got this pressure of having to win that sometimes kind of dilutes the I love it or have fun with it.
No, I don't feel that pressure because, one, succumbing to or blinding yourself with pressure or outside expectations, it's literally pointless, because there's nothing you can do in this very second to relieve pressure, mm-hmm. right? If winning is the goal, winning is the outcome, mm-hmm. right? Winning championships even, put all your focus on what it takes to get to that, right? So we know what it takes to win. We know what that process looks like. That's what you dive into, and that's what you fall in love with. So if it's like, we talked about this to our team before we played at Maryland last year. Like, I could see their faces with the kind of a look of like, this was a big moment, and it really wasn't, right? It really was not a big moment for our group. Deshaun Schwartz had, 1,000 points and won NCAA tournament games, have been on top 25 teams. Devontae Gaines has won everywhere. Davon Cooper's been in the NCAA tournament this season. VJ Bailey has been to multiple Sweet 16s. He's a two-time champion in the SEC and the Pac-12. Giannika Ojiako is an ACC champion. Like, it's really the focus and the mindset of this. If we go out there tonight or every day in practice and I play defense like my life depends on it, if I try to make the guy across from me life a living nightmare, and when he shoots his shot, I'm going to contest it to the absolute best of my ability, and I'm going to be on defense with a swiveling head, having my teammates back in the stance. The shot goes up. I'm going to find somebody, and I'm going to put my shoulder into their chest and get them on my back and box them out and go pursue the ball with two hands. And now we're playing in transition offense. If I see someone open, I pass it to them. And we're playing offense as five with the mindset of we are going to take care of this ball and we're going to get the best shot we possibly can. If that's the mindset of every possession, you never even think about winning.
You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about that. It's almost like you said earlier, like those micro moments of being present. Like, turn your brain off and say, I focused on those steps you said. I'm focused on the ball. I focus on this. I focus on that. All that is noise.
Who am I closing out to? Is it Ben Simmons or is it Steph Curry? If it's Ben Simmons, close out short. If it's Steph Curry, don't let him shoot.
Hyper focus.
Right? Like if you just focused on those things, the winning takes care of itself. I wouldn't even. You could not even like watch the scoreboard until the end of the game
because you're focusing.
If we have guys and a deep team and guys that are completely focused on that, there is no pressure. You're gonna win far greater games than you lose.
Autopilot.
If you have talent, and you focus on that.
All right. Well, this has been great. We're gonna go to my last segment of the show. It's called Shot for Shot, which is kind of applicable. I didn't think about it for this podcast, but you get to ask me any random question. I get to ask you any random question. You want to go first? I'll go first. Maybe I'll go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay, I see that you have Art of War. Particularly, why literature outside of basketball you think is good for the game of basketball? Because Art of War is a dope book, but think about, talk about that. We're gonna go outside basketball influences.
It's like 20 copies of Art of War. We're gonna go through it as a team this season. I never ever compare war to sport because it's not the same at all. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard not to think as a leader or want to know what military leaders think or do, or reasons why, or how, or ways they encourage. And I just think it's a great book by Sun Tzu. I read it a few times a year, actually, or at least once a year. But it's a spectacular read, and I'm excited to go through it with our team this season.
Well, I'm going to send you another one, The Way to Tao. Have you read that before? No. I'll send that to you. It's really quick. There's also like little quotes similar to Art of War. And I think there's times where things outside of your normal 9-to-5 can inspire. So I'll send that to you because I've read Art of War too, and it's like strategies and stuff, but then it's like, the high man wins the ground, like all this stuff. You're that could be rebounding. I don't know.
I love that stuff. I love listening to generals, when they were talking about the Ukraine and Russian, what's happening over there when they have war general and vets get on there and talk about strategy and flanking or like where to go in. I think that's so cool that they see that as way coaches see a game and understand strategy and mistakes.
And also mindset. They'll say like, you could already tell. I think there's a quote in there about already losing. Like if you go into it with this, you already lost, or you can mentally defeat your enemy like you could like beat them mentally before they even start battle.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
That's
let's
pretty
say
crazy.
90% of, I've heard someone say 90% of college basketball games are won before the ball is thrown up. But like, I mean,
Yeah.
it talks about war's not, meant to be long. It's not meant to be long. Like, like Ukraine's not backing down. That's not what, the opponent wants. They want it to be swift, quick, and painless,
So, well,
But,
lessons from outside that applicable.
yep. Who's been your favorite guest on your podcast?
So, okay, I have two, and I'm doing a cop out. Well, actually, three.
Come on, man.
No, because I got it. There's okay. I'll do it like this: outside of my normal life, and then professionally.
That's messed up. I just said your podcast.
Okay,
One
man.
person.
This is hard. I would say my father-in-law,
Okay.
because basically I just got his gems on record.
That's awesome.
And then, I mean, that's why you put me in a hard spot, because I was going to say number two is my dad, because he put himself on wax too. So I got these two father figures on there. And then I guess, like, I don't know, professionally, I don't know, I was thinking like Ann Holton or something.
That's how you know how we're just outside of the nation's capital, how political you just got there with that answer. You made everyone happy.
No, I didn't know.
No, there
Okay,
you go.
so like, okay, flat out 100%, if you put me like the hill I had to die on, I'll say my father-in-law. And I'll say that without
That's a good answer.
that, because legit, like I had him 3 times. He talked about his career, and so I got to do that and model that. We talked about living together, and we talked about just him being a man and a father and all that balance.
And a grandfather.
And a grandfather, all that.
Yeah.
So, but
That's
then you put
awesome.
me in a spot, because I was going to say my dad too, because I very rarely listen to my own self, but I've listened to the ones with my father-in-law and my dad over again for myself. Because for me, it's like having a conversation with them. So for my dad was one of the first blacks to go to VMI the year they integrated. So I learned about his journey. And he was telling me things that I was always interested. It's like, he's telling people on a podcast something that he's never told me.
Yeah.
Like telling me about pressure and letting his family down and, being upset and crying that he thought he was going to fail out and all that stuff.
Wow.
He never told me that.
Did you ever ask him?
Why he never told me?
Did you ever ask him, how did you get him to
I
open
literally
up?
just on the podcast, I was just saying, like, did you, during this time, did you ever think that you were
Well, yeah, that's
not
what I'm
going to
saying.
finish?
Did you ever ask him that before your podcast? You never asked him that.
No, I did. You know, man, like the father-son thing,
Okay.
like, did he have a hard time? He gave me like a blanketed answer.
Yeah.
And then I think that when I have a hard time, it's just me. My dad never went through this stuff.
Yeah.
Put your dad on a pedestal like I
Yeah,
did.
for sure.
And I'm like, my dad never worried about failure. My dad was, the man, Army colonel.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to see that. I was like, this dude is really telling, I literally said it in my mind. I was like, he's telling an invisible audience stuff that he never told me.
Yeah.
So I listened to it over again. But my father-in-law is the opposite. My father-in-law has told me these things, but then he also puts it on wax. He's more of an open book than my dad. So for me, I listen to both of those over and over again. Like, regardless of if I had famous people or not, I listen to those 2 episodes or 3 or 4. I just literally turn them on and listen, because for me, it's like, as I said, it's like having a conversation with my mentors, And
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I don't know. So this is great. This has been a really great experience. I'm so grateful for your time. This is the part of the show I call shout outs and plugs. So you get to shout out, show love to anyone you want to show love, and then plugs. Plugs will be how you want the listeners to engage with you and things that you want them to be aware of, so I can put them in the show notes.
I'm bad at this. I don't. I never retweet anything written about me. I don't repost things on Instagram. Like I don't. I'm opinionated on my social media,
Yeah.
but I don't really promote my social media. I never have ever said follow me.
There it is.
Or follow this. So I'm not the best guy for that at all. But follow at Mason MBB
There it is.
on Twitter and Instagram, and follow our program. And really excited about what we're gonna do.
I am too.
this
And
season.
I told you, and the listeners don't know this, but I remember you gave me and my son tickets, and I really appreciate that. And I'll say this as we end out the episode, that Mason basketball and supporting you has given me and my son another father-son activity.
Nice.
So I can't. He won't let me go all the way to like DC and all that, but he'll come down to Fairfax.
Good.
Get a lemonade and popcorn. I get to enjoy the game, and so that's going to be definitely from now and moving forward. That's definitely going to be a Wilkerson family thing.
That's great to hear. Well, if you have any tickets, parking pass, whatever, let me know. I got you.
I'm there,
and you can come to practice. He can shoot around, whatever. Our gym's always open.
Oh, well, he'll love that. Well, so he's here on the wax. But thank you, Coach. English has been great. I love learning more about your journey as a coach and just the things. I took notes as I do with every episode because this is also for me to learn. I'm really excited for what your team is going to do this year and every year, and I wish you many success. And Positive Philter listeners, if you want to like this episode, please share it with a family member or friend, subscribe, all those things. And if you want to leave a voicemail for the podcast, it's 571-336-6560, 571-336-6560. Sharing positivity is a movement, and we're out. Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity a Movement. Thanks for listening.